Well, my breathing exercise, I find I'm actually counting 3 lots of 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm not counting out loud, of course, because I'm breathing in. And then I hold the breath for the count of 12, and then I breathe out for the count of 12. So that makes 36. And it takes something short of 36 seconds, something like 33 seconds, say. So each breath takes about 33 seconds. I'm not deliberately counting that slowly. I end up counting at that speed. I start by counting faster because otherwise, when I first start, I'd be short of breath if I counted like that. So I might start by counting at something like the speed of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, even that's too slow. But the point is you count fast enough not to be out of breath in any sense. It's not meant to be a stress or a strain. What happens is, I think, the body starts to get plenty of oxygen in it, breathing relatively fast, I suppose. Well, what seems extremely slowly compared to normal breathing, and when the body's got enough oxygen, well, it doesn't need to breathe much more, you know what I mean? So you find you are counting slower. And as I say, I come down to about something short of 1 count per second. And each breath is something short of 36 counts per breath. And it's a triangular breathing of count of 12 in, hold 12, and breathe out 12. I actually find it easier when I'm thinking of the locations on the body. So I breathe in from the bottom of, if you like, the spine to the top of the spine. So I'm counting 1, 2 for the coccyx, and then 3, 4 for the next level up, and then 5, 6 where I'm up to the stomach, and then 7, 8 I'm on the heart, 9, 10 I'm on the throat, 11, 12 I'm on the brain, if you like, the head. And then the second part of the triangle, the 12 counts of holding the breath, I'm transcendent in the crown, if you like, where the crown would be, the glory, the aura glowing round the head of the saints, if you like. I'm holding to the count of 12, and then I breathe out. So I start with the head, the brain, 1, 2, then down to the throat, 3, 4, down to the heart, 5, 6, down to the stomach, 7, 8, down to whatever, 9, 10, down to the coccyx, 11, 12. And then I go straight into the next breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So I'm thinking of 6 locations on the body, and I'm visualizing the breath coming in, and when I breathe out, I'm visualizing the breath going out from each center, each location. I'm aware that the air is passing in the throat. I'm not sniffing the air. I'm not forcing the chest in and out. If anything, it's diaphragmatic breathing. Diaphragmatic. The diaphragm. Not diagrammatic, diaphragmatic. So I'm breathing in at the bottom of the lungs first, and I'm filling to the top, holding, and then I'm emptying. In effect, that's what I'm doing. I mean, obviously the spine doesn't breathe, but in some sense, I suppose I'm filling it with spirit energy. I'm not quite sure how to say that, really. holding and then releasing. It's a combination of thinking of the air filling the lungs and the power of God, really, filling the whole body, holding, breathing in, breathing out. Not sure. But it's a sort of visual entity that helps me synchronize the breathing to be triangular and deep and pretty slow, of course. I mean, just under 2 breaths a minute is breathing extremely slowly. And not something you can launch into easily, I might point out. Well, I mean, it's not that hard, of course, because I do it every morning, but I mean, it helps if you take 3 deep breaths first. I don't mean sniff the air, I mean expel the air from the lungs right down to the bottom, and then breathe in 2 moves, halfway or part way, and then fully. So I go, that's breathing out, I go. I've made the sound there because I'm trying to tell you how the air's moving, then I hold for the same count of 2, and then breathing out through the mouth. When I'm doing the triangular breathing practice, I'm not breathing through the mouth, I breathe through the nose. I suppose if the nose is blocked, you'd have to do it through the mouth, but I feel the nose is ideal for breathing, not the mouth. The mouth's for eating, you know. The mouth's only used for breathing when you really need phenomenal flows of energy fast, because you're exerting the body, you know, say running, you know, and then you may well open the mouth. But basically I'm breathing through the nose. But I'm not making the sound that I just made, I just did that so you know how the air's moving. It becomes silent or virtually silent quite easily and quite quickly. It's not something I'm pressing for, but I'm not trying to make a vacuum sound, you know. And yes, those 3 first breaths are rather important because, well, I think they're important because it flushes the body and the muscles, the tissues with blood, and therefore a supply of oxygen and life force, if you like. So it also flushes the body generally with oxygen so that you can breathe slower and deeper. Whereas if you just go straight into triangular breathing from your normal daily breathing, laying there in bed, say, well, you can't count to the count of 12 very easily, even if you're counting fast. And don't be worried that, you know, to begin with you are counting fast, because it will naturally slow down as you find there's no problem breathing slowly at all. It becomes very easy the longer you're doing it, unless you're forcing it. If you try to breathe, you know, 1 breath 30 seconds first of all, well, of course you're short of oxygen because you're used to breathing, I don't know, 10 times in that, you know, 8 or 10 times in that half minute. We're not stretching the body, or we're not forcing the body, you see. It's just a comfortable practice that you come into by degrees each time you do it. Because, of course, you start from a situation where you're not breathing at 2 breaths per minute, I mean, by any means. You're breathing very shallowly, but much more frequently. And I suppose if you think about it, the breathing practice is tremendous for not leaving stagnant air in the body or leaving shortages of oxygen. you are using the lungs to pretty well full capacity. I don't mean you're straining. There's no advantage in straining. But you are using all the lungs, or at least visually you can imagine you're doing such. You're certainly doing more than the tiny breaths that you take when relaxed and not thinking about it. You do find with this slowing down of breath that the heart slows down too. I don't mean dangerously. I mean it just naturally doesn't need to pump so fast, because I suppose the pumping that it is doing is very efficient now in delivering oxygen to the tissues. It's because the lungs are working wholesomely fully, I mean, not stressed. So this is, I'll say, my breathing practice, because I don't want to detract from what people may teach about what the ideal yoga breathing is. But I do want to tell you what I found to be a great blessing. I don't mean this practice alone will give you some magnificent enlightenment. I think true enlightenment comes, I think it comes from gratitude and love, not physical exercise and just attention to one's breathing. But I think the amazing thing is that, in some sense, you're given the body so that you might have life, spiritual, eternal life. And the body, being used in a certain way, therefore achieves exactly that. That's my understanding, or my hope. And I found that such has been a tremendous blessing. So that's what I give. I can only give what's in my purse. And I find my purse is full and brimming over. So it's easy for me to give, and a great joy. Yeah, that's putting it in a sort of intelligible way, isn't it? Thank you, Heavenly Dad. A note or two. Those three first breaths, 1, 2, hold, 1, 2, breathe out, 2, 1, 2. You're tensing the body, holding the tension, relaxing the body. So you're tensing the body all the way up from the feet to the stomach, say, and then the second part of that in-breath is from the stomach, the chest, and the arms, and the neck, head. And you hold the whole tension in the body to a count of 2, and then you breathe out in reverse order. That's what I'm doing in those 3 breaths, each of the 3, in the 3 parts of the 3 breaths. What else should I say? I'm relaxed. Typically I lay in bed. I'm not sitting in some perfect spine upright position or something. I'm just awake at, it's 4:41 at the minute in the morning, and I've been going an hour or so very happily. I'm wide awake, of course. I'm wide awake. It's a great practice for settling the mind, the body, your whole psyche, your whole spiritual state becomes as calm as the breath and the heart just comfortably slow down, not forcibly. Settle. The breathing is, the actual practice of the triangular breathing is full, of course. I don't do it terribly consciously after a while. It becomes absolutely automatic. And I typically listen to some of my recordings. I'm checking, like this one is already 15 and a half minutes long, and at some point I'll be checking this during the night, perhaps later on today, this morning, or perhaps it's tomorrow, and I'll be doing the background triangular breathing. But I'm thinking about very much what I'm saying on the recording. Of course, you could say I'm choosing what I narcissistically think of as an emotive word, isn't it? But my own recordings, because I feel it's, well, to be quite honest, I feel it's a drawing near to God. And that's what I want to do, of course, with all my heart. So, but whatever you find preoccupies you to great spiritual value, well, that would be just wonderful. It might be someone reading John's Gospel, I mean, you could have your phone on something like that, speaking it to you, couldn't you? You're constrained at 4 or 3 in the morning because you don't want to wake up the rest of the household, of course, but you're not going to have a full-on worship time, and besides, you're practicing the breathing. It'll be quite personalized, and it will adapt as time goes on and become more effective for you, and you'll know what you're doing. Once it practice makes perfect, doesn't it? I really have found it's has a transformative effect. And in times when I'm really stressed, it's something one can do when the mind just can't somehow free itself of all the stress and the problems. It brings an incredible calm. I suppose the breathing and the heart follows the state of the mind, but equally the mind will start to follow the state of the breathing and the heart. So you can deal with a stressful situation quite wonderfully through the breathing practice, especially if you're already very familiar with doing it. And as I say, give yourself then good company too. I mean, you don't have to lay there in silence. You could be listening to something beautiful as you see it, something helpful, something that you feel is reliably going to be godly, quite honestly. So if someone's reading to you on some recording, John's Gospel or something, well, that might be as good as anything that one can come up with. I don't know. Perhaps you got reading the Bhagavad Gita. I mean, okay. It's what works for you. Bless you. And you are blessed. How could you be more blessed than being a child of God? How could you be richer than having Creator of the universe, your closest, dearest friend, who dwells in you always, faithful and true? Isn't that an astonishing, wonderful thought? Absolutely marvellous. I think so. Bless you. And you are blessed. Thank you, Dad. Well, I was listening to, is it 2 recordings back, the recording called All, anyway, I think I called it that. And I'm talking about, well, I realise it's quite a long recording. It's about integrity. You know, the atoms hold together by an astonishing integrity. They have a pull on each other so that even as thin as a sheet of paper, if you tug on it, it's got tremendous resistance to being parted, being torn. And you think, how extraordinary. How do these separate entities, these atoms, hang on to each other so tightly, so few? The paper's so thin, or the rope, or whatever, you know. Extend that thought to relationships. Faithful and true friends. People with integrity who hold to relationships and principles. I mean in a nice and wholesome way. I don't mean in some fanatical, wrong way, you know. But faithful and true. Dad used to have a business city thing of London, which is my word is my bond. If you made an agreement, you did all you could to stick to it. I don't mean it was a vow. I'm not pressing that. But you did all you could to be faithful and true. Not what you can't, but what you can. Okay? Don't want you to be forced into a vow, but do want you to be earnest and doing what you can to make life for others safe and predictable, and ultimately, of course, to be a blessing. When we're purposed all to be a blessing on each other, wow, the company is that of angels. You're in heaven already, the kingdom of heaven. We were talking about groups last night at some philosophy meeting I was at, and 9 of us in the room, and they know each other. I'm relatively new to the group, but they know each other well, and they are kind to each other. And that kindness I take to be an evidence of a rather lovely trust. They are safe with each other, relationally speaking, interactive conversations. They can have disagreements, but they still care for each other. They are kind to each other. And that's the loveliness, isn't it? Would that we were like that with all our groups and organisations and meetings and relationships with others. That we are always kind, concerned for, wanting to bless. It's the consequence of a deep integrity, a kindly thoughtfulness, isn't it, of those around us. It's integrity again, faithful and true. Can't always follow through on such, but so wanting to be faithful and true. bless you. And we're all blessed in this way. Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Heavenly Dad.